Tactical is live now.
Hey everybody.
Hello.
We're getting it going here. And this will be uploaded to YouTube because we've got that part figured out. And once we hit 1,000 subscribers on this new channel, we should be able to go live on both of them. That has been fixed. So if you're on YouTube, look up Downtown Tactical, and
Downtown Tactical channel is the best way to find it.
oh, okay, Downtown Tactical channel, and look that up, and you should be able to find us, like it, subscribe it, share it,
We appreciate it.
and let's see how many of you guys we have watching. It says there's 4 already. Mr. Gary Johnson, hello, hello. Appreciate it, man. You are so loyal, man. You're awesome.
Mm-hmm. He's always here.
He is. He's always here. Always. I appreciate you. And Mr. Kevin Pine from out in Washington. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you. So, we're going to talk about some medical stuff today. First and foremost, I want to kind of set the scene. You will have more opportunity to use, I hope that it looks not as, okay, it's not as fuzzy now. You will have more opportunity to use medical trauma-based training than you ever will your firearm.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Because of the nature, using a firearm is kind of a one faceted pursuit. Okay, we learn how to get the gun out effectively, how to point it at the target. We learn how to shoot the rounds that we need to in the time that we need to do it. That's how that is. However, there's going to be a lot more times out there that somebody is injured, and you can help by having the correct equipment with you, and help to prevent loss of life by stepping in and providing the correct care at the speed required to prevent further additional traumatic injury or blood loss to a victim.
To eviction.
Yes. Yeah.
All right,
don't want them evicted from their bodies. Okay.
So think about this. You carry a gun every single day for a fight you don't plan on being in, right? But you also don't plan on being caught in a situation that you can't come out of it with the best tactical advantage you can, which is the same reason why you carry the gun. It's the same reason why you go and get the training. It's the reason you do force-on-force training. It's the reason why you work to be proficient and have the skills necessary to save your life. Why would you not do the same thing in medical? Think about it this way. It doesn't have to be a gunfight. Your body is the same, so it doesn't matter if it's impaled because of something from a vehicular type accident, to something falling, to shootings, right? When you had Las Vegas.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And,
you could be at the concert.
Yep, could be out just doing your thing, not planning on needing, blood transfusions or blood to be put into you because somebody poked holes in you. You carry a gun to stop bad guys from doing bad things. But what are you doing to right the wrong when a bad guy has done something, either for you, for a loved one, or for a stranger? Having trauma-based medical training. I'm not talking about first aid, CPR training. That's great. You should get that too. But I'm talking about how to stop an arterial bleed, how to establish an airway, how to do a chest decompression, how to do wound packing, right? It doesn't have to be from a bullet. It can be, some sort of impact and impalement that has happened, and you're going to have to pack the wound. There's all sorts of things that you're going to have to know how to do.
And we're getting into the time of the year where people are going to be out a lot, trimming up trees, cutting firewood for the winter.
Icy roads.
When we're just talking about firewood prep, okay? You're talking about chainsaws, you're talking about axes. You're going to be talking about people that maybe this is their first year ever doing it. Maybe they never swung an axe or used the chainsaw before. They don't know what kickback is.
Well, and you got to think about the person that's done it for 20 years. and has got so comfortable with doing it that they've become lackadaisical, right? That they're not paying attention to those things, or maybe they're fatigued, or maybe they've had a couple of beers, or maybe they haven't slept well, or they're not in the right frame of mind when they're doing it. You can have a medical need in a multitude of circumstances, and so I really want to drive that home, that you carry a gun to protect yourself for a fight you never planned to be in. You should carry medical equipment for the trauma that you never expect to experience too. Likewise, let's say that you don't have time to get to class right now, for whatever reason, we all make excuses. I mean, we're all too busy to do whatever it is that's not a priority for us to do.
Right.
It's really easy to be busy. But at least get the gear and equipment, because if you have it and you're not trained to use it, but there's somebody who is there that's trained to use it but doesn't have it, you can still save the day by having that stuff with you.
It doesn't require a lot of money. It doesn't require a lot of effort to keep a trauma kit close to you or on your person all the time. Okay, for example, I have minimalist trauma kit on me right now that consists of some personal protective equipment and a tourniquet. Okay, I have a larger medical kit in my car that I can run out and grab, as long as I have bought myself the couple of minutes to get to those other things with what I have on my person. So let's go ahead and start with what we can just readily have.
One more thing.
Carry on.
Micah's really ready to go, and I'm ready
Let's
for
do
him
this.
too. I want you to think of something. Be the first responder that you want showing up, because it may just be you. If something is going down and you're caught in a bad spot, first responders will not be coming in until the scene is secure. That may be too long. That's one. Two, you may be in the middle of nowhere, and it may take a long time for a first responder to show up. So you having the life-saving gear and equipment to save your life and the lives of those that you love is crucial. Likewise, I drive Highway 65 to and from work all the time. Now, if you're not from around here, you don't know where Highway 65 is, but just know that it's a highway that stretches in the Midwest. You've got miles between cities. Every single year, this time of year, I come upon 2 or 3 times, I come upon a vehicle that has been rolled over or disabled in some sense from a vehicular type of accident, and there are people that have been injured. I'm the first responder. Nobody's called to call me there, but I'm the one that sees it. I'm the first one to show up. I'm the first responder. So I stop and help them and get help on the way. So we're not talking about you having to carry enough gear as you're the emergency room. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about life-saving measures that you can carry with you on your person and in your vehicle that can be used until they can be stabilized and get more care later, right? And how long that later is, you don't know, but it could be 20 minutes, 30 minutes, could be an hour. That's the kind of time frame that we're looking at. So, beginning with personal protective equipment.
So we're going to start off with everybody's standard when you're dealing with blood, bodily fluids of any kind. You're going to want a pair of gloves. Okay. Gloves are, I recommend nitrile gloves. They don't rip as easy. You don't have to deal with allergies like you do with some latex gloves. And they're typically fairly durable. The set I have right here are a 5 mil, which is fine.
Those aren't from, okay, you got 7 mil to show too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So these are 5 mil. I've got some others over here that are 7 mil. These are a thicker glove, but one thing to be said immediately is if you're going to go with a thicker nitrile glove, one thing that you need to do is buy a test box and see if they'll even fit your hands. Because even though they provide more protection against punctures and cuts,
a lot harder to put on.
they're much more difficult to put on. Now, typically I wear a large glove. And in a 5 mil, that's perfectly fine. In this 7 mil, which I picked up for $6 from Harbor Freight, to be honest, they're fairly constrictive on my hands. And if my hands are wet with perspiration or blood, what have you, and I'm trying to get a glove on, it's going to be more difficult to do with these 7 mil gloves. So if you're going to buy a thicker glove, size up. Okay. The other thing I'm going to say is that if you're buying from a non-medical place, just for cost's sake, a lot of times when you get up into the thicker gloves, the thicker ones, like the 10 mil, will come in a black. We don't want black. Okay, you cannot see any bodily fluids on a black glove, and you really need to know what's on your hands when you're dealing with someone that's injured.
Yeah, and especially at nighttime. Because you won't be able to tell if it's blood, if it's water, you just won't know. So having the dark gloves aren't the best. Now, if it's the only thing you can get, hey, it's personal protective equipment and get it. But it's really better to get a different color than black.
Right. And if you're going with if you're buying from a medical supply warehouse, they've got them in all kinds of colors. You can get them in pink, you can get them in green, you can get them in yellow, all these kind of high vis colors that are very good for contrast, particularly in low light. Do I have something on my glove that shouldn't be there? Am I about to touch my face with it? These are important issues. Okay. So a lot of people say, well, how do you store gloves when you're going to use them? So what I do is I'll take a pair of gloves, just like this, put the thumbs together, fingers kind of together, then I'll fold them over. I picked this up from my good friend Carson, who has been a medic for a long time. And then what we'll do, I know it's kind of hard to see with the with what we've got down there at the bottom of it. We'll roll them up. I think I got it.
All right.
So we're gonna roll it up like this. I know you've never rolled anything like this before.
No.
And then we're gonna take the cuff and we'll turn the glove inside the cuff. So that does two things. Number one, it keeps our gloves right there where we need them. Number two, the cuff, the part that goes around your wrist, is going to be the least critical in a situation like that. And this actually gives it a double thickness of protection, so you don't have to worry about getting holes in your gloves. And just like this, you can go ahead and throw it in a pocket and move on about your day.
And they're easy to put on in that.
Yeah, they're really easy to put on. You just grab the cuffs, flip them out. Now we got them right there, ready to go. And bleeding. Okay, now we got our gloves on. Okay, so now say we've had to help with some trauma. There's been blood, there's been fluids, what have you. How do we take them off? That's fairly easy. You're going to grab the inside of the cuff, pull it down, take that soiled glove, ball it up, find a soiled area of the glove, stick your finger inside of that, inside out. There we go, all the mess contained in one thing. You can hand it to the ambulance guys or just throw it in the pile of junk that they will leave when they leave the scene.
Yep.
And
that's the first step. Having the minimum, having a set of gloves.
Another good idea is to have just a quick set of slip-on wrap-around eye protection. I have a set of shooting glasses that I keep in the car, um, that are prescription, because of course I am wearing glasses. Um, but you can pick these up for not very much money. I think these came free with a USCCA
I was just gonna say,
membership.
go to downtowntactical.com, click on the USCCA membership, sign up, and you'll probably get a pair of those.
Oh yeah, they'll send you a bunch of stuff. You might get one of these. So eye protection is important, because if you're talking about a serious traumatic injury where you have splashing fluids,
Your eyes are really
your
susceptible.
eyes can absorb all those little droplets, and you don't know what that person has.
Yeah.
Now, so let's talk about that for a second. Levels of, oh my gosh, I need protective equipment. Number one, if you're working on yourself, you've already got what you're gonna get. So don't worry about gloves. Okay, that's kind of a gimme.
I don't want to get myself infected from myself. I don't know what my left hand did the other day.
No, exactly. You can't. Yeah, it's not like the first time that you got the herpes. Okay.
Well, we used to be a family-based show. Micah.
Sorry.
He's talking about pizza. I had my piece and she got her piece. Bad joke.
Bad one, man.
All right, moving back along.
Yeah, let's
so
keep
you're
going.
not going to have to worry about wearing PPE when you're helping yourself. Loved one.
Yeah, if we're talking about a close contact loved one, spouse, child, somebody that you spend all of your time with, you know their medical history, of course, jump in as needed. I wouldn't hold up if my wife or my daughters were suffering from a traumatic bleed or other injury. I would not be stopping to put on a bunch of PPE, because I know where they've been.
Yep.
All right. Now, on the other hand, talk about a stranger. Okay, well,
We're talking about you, Gary.
yeah, stranger than some. Just saying. Now we're.
My buddy Chris from Virginia's on. We're talking about you too, Mr. VA.
So, if you're talking about a stranger, you got to use your judgment. Okay. Number one, how serious are the injuries? Number two, are you willing to take a chance that they have something that you have not automatically detected with your bat radar? Okay.
I'm gonna add to that. It
Yeah.
would really suck to be prepared for the fight. This is coming from James. I think James said this. I want to give him credit if he did, but it really sucked to be prepared for the fight in every aspect and lose the fight years later because you didn't don your PPE.
So use your judgment. Okay, so the other day I was driving home from work. I had left the shop here. I was heading home. And as I'm driving down the road, I see this dude seizing by the side of the road. Okay. Not a well-to-do person. The guy had a backpack and a longboard, and other than that, he looked homeless. So I turn around, come back. He's collapsed in front of a auto body shop, and these guys are just kind of all sitting there looking at him. So what do? First thing I do when I hop out of the car, boom, got gloves. Okay, he's leaking blood. He's not spurting blood. So I don't anticipate having any blood flung on me as long as everybody stays cool and doesn't do anything rash.
But you don't know that they're not gonna.
Right. And as it so happens, it was just 4 blocks from a fire station. Somebody had already called 911. So no sooner than I get up there and start to take this guy's pulse, fire crew rolls up, and they do is ask me about his level of consciousness. Well, I very specifically did not try to test his level of consciousness beyond a verbal interaction. Okay, this guy was not verbally reactive. The reason why became very, very apparent when the paramedic hopped up to him. First thing he did was rub on this guy's sternum, and this guy goes, "Blah!" and blood goes flying everywhere from his split lip, which I had already stepped back because I knew what was coming. So, but still wearing gloves.
Sternum rub sucks.
Yeah, sternum rub is not a whole lot of fun.
Yeah.
I made the mistake of teaching that to my daughter the other day, and so she taught it to some of her classmates.
So when I was taking first aid training with the Red Cross, first thing they always tell you to do is to get consent. There is implied consent and there's consent. If somebody is laying there unconscious, needing help, doing a sternum rub, not being responsive, talking to them, not being responsive, there's implied consent that you can help them. But if they're talking, then you should always come up, identify yourself, say, can I help? I'm trained in blah, blah, blah. Can I help you? And start going down that list. And in our medical-based trauma course that we offer, you'll get a whole lot more details on what you should do, when you should do it, and how you should do it. We're going to keep it kind of boxed in just to try to give you some info.
Okay. So after PPE, what is our most now? And this is we're speaking of treating trauma outside the presence of bad guys shooting guns.
If somebody's poking holes, man, you got to stop
If
them from
somebody's poking
holes.
holes in people, then a firearm is also preventive medicine. 115, 124 grains of lead tends to decrease their ability.
You can't solve the problem if somebody's going to poke a hole in you. So, but remember that we're saying this will cover more than just. We teach it from a gunfighting perspective, but this covers the body and bleeding in general. All right, moving along.
So, if there's someone has sustained serious injury, particularly an arterial bleed, you have a very, very limited window of time to deal with that and to get that bleed stopped. Now, there are a couple of different ways that you can deal with that. Traditionally,
Well, tell them how long they have, because
okay,
that needs to be rang home.
Okay.
This is why you carry your PPE with you and you carry your medical kit with you.
Yeah, we're looking, if you're talking about a major artery that's severed, you're looking at about 90 seconds before the person loses consciousness. Okay, then you got another 90 before they're dead.
And so if it's you, your adrenaline is pumping, and you think you're going to be able to run to get your medical kit, at 90 seconds, it's not going to last very long. If you're in the back of Walmart, you're not getting to your car in 90 seconds. It's not happening.
No. So there are the way to fix that traditionally. Before 9/11, before we got involved with Afghanistan, a lot of the so-called advice out there was to go ahead and hold it high, keep pressure on the wound, evaluate it, reapply a dressing. One of the only good things that comes from a continual military operation like we've had in the Middle East is the advances in trauma medicine. We saw it in the First World War. We saw it in the Second World War. We saw the rise of the quick evacuation in Vietnam. In the Middle East, it's become immediate treatment at the scene and then getting them the heck out of there to highly skilled medical professionals has become the modus operandi. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, so what we're speaking about, Micah's leading you into talking about tourniquets. Prior to the war on terror, prior to that, tourniquets were really regarded as bad. Last ditch effort, you're going to lose a limb, it's really bad. And I'm not a huge history buff, but that stems from my understanding world wars, right? Where you had tourniquets being developed and utilized and not really understanding how long you can have a tourniquet on, also dealing with all the conditions that they were in the trenches and so on and so forth. People lost limbs and the tourniquets were to blame even though it was wrongly placed blame. That was the understanding, and for a long time, tourniquets were deemed as off limits. It's bad. It's worst case. You're going to lose a limb if you put a tourniquet on. It's simply not true, but it wasn't entirely false because they didn't understand how long a tourniquet could stay on. They didn't understand how tight it needed to be versus how loose it needed to be. They didn't understand tourniquets the way they do today. The tourniquet hasn't changed a whole lot in the way that it operates. There's different styles that lead to faster applications, but in terms of their overall effectiveness, they're highly effective, and you're not going to lose a limb unless you're leaving it on for extended periods of time, half a day.
Don't leave anything.
Don't cut off blood to
cinched
living
from
tissue
anything.
for a half a day. That's not going to work.
Yeah, there's a reason why there's a 4-hour warning on that little blue pill.
Once again, family news show. Kids, we're talking about Pez.
Yes, Pez. Don't eat more than 4 of them in an hour.
Cialis for daily use. No. So having a tourniquet on for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, not going to be a problem. And we're not teaching this from the perspective of you're in combat and you're not going to be able to seek medical attention for days, right? We're talking about, Gary brought up that you may not have cell signal, and it takes an hour for a helicopter to get in there. An hour, you're going to be okay, and they're not going to lose an arm. And if anything, they're still going to be alive, even if they did lose the arm. You've got a long time that you can leave it on, and moving on. We've harped enough on that.
Okay, so we've got 2 basic kinds of tourniquets. We have a elastic tourniquet, such as here the TK4, or here the RATS tourniquet. The way these work is to occlude blood flow by tightening around a limb and then cinching it into its own back onto itself, so that the limb stays occluded, the arterial flow stays occluded to the limb. These work well on most adult arms. They can work on legs. You can stack them one on top of another, particularly with the TK4s, to get the correct occlusion. If you have a problem occluding blood flow in the leg. And they work well for kids because you can cinch them down very, very small, and you can get occlusion on a tiny, teensy weensy little limb. Okay, I could use this on my 8-year-old daughter, and it would not be fun, as anybody who's ever had a tourniquet applied to you can tell you, or applied can tell you. Tourniquets are not necessarily fun, but they're totally survivable.
Yep.
Okay. The other kind of tourniquet that is big is the windlass tourniquet. Okay. Now here I have my Trainer Cat 7, also a Training Recon. There's also the Soft T Wide. If you're going to go with a Soft T, I suggest against the most newly released version. They tried to put some wings on here to grab their windlass, just like the Cat and the Recon. Unfortunately, it's made of very inferior polymer, and those wings snap off immediately.
Thus making your tourniquet useless.
Yeah. Now they do have a little triangle, a retention triangle, but if the wings snap off, then so does their Velcro. So that's a problem. We don't want to have a windlass tourniquet that we've tightened, and now the pressure comes off of the tension comes off the windlass, and now what was a stopped bleed is now bleeding all over the place.
Yep.
Okay, that's no good. So, personally, I really like these recons. Um, the Cat 7 is the kind of the gold standard for a windlass tourniquet. They are TCCC approved if that's your thing. Um, these recons have been tested over the last couple of years very extensively by some friends of mine. Um, I really like the recon for the amount of money that you get. That you spend. You can buy about 3 of these to about 2 of these. That's just how that goes. If you're interested in purchasing recon tourniquets, please go ahead, contact us here at the shop. We are friends with some of the distributors.
Yep.
And be happy to make that happen for you, particularly if you're looking for a group buy.
Yeah, group buys.
Yeah, we'd be happy to get that organized for you.
So let's talk about putting on a tourniquet. Now, for those of you out there who have heard the people say, oh, I don't need to carry a tourniquet because I can just use my belt. No, you can't. No, you can't. Now, there are some belts out there that will work. There are some belts out there that were made for that. But for the most part, if you've got a leather belt with holes in it, it's not going to work.
Right.
Don't even fool yourself or them. Just stop and get yourself a tourniquet. Applying a tourniquet is, you want to just apply one?
Sure, I'll apply one.
Put on your gloves.
Okay.
Follow the rules. PPE.
I don't know where he's been.
The reason I told him to put his gloves on, habit, right? So you know how you treat every firearm as if it's loaded at all times, you follow all the same rules all the time, even though you know that it was cleared. Same thing, right? And Micah knows this. He didn't need to be told to put the gloves on. It's just part of that process.
Yeah, you do it right until you can't do it wrong.
Yep. Amateurs train until they get something right and feel they've accomplished something. Damn, I need sunglasses. Hey, come on now. Professionals train until they can't get it wrong. So we're gonna just say that I've got a bleed and it's gonna be here. But talk about, let's say that the bleed is down here. Kind of talk about where you're gonna put it, why you're gonna put it,
Okay.
that sort of thing.
So,
Jason, that was rude as hell, by the way. He's talking about our domes.
Yeah, I see that. He just shaved his head. Who's he to talk? Hairy bastard. All right. So in a clinical setting, when you're talking about maybe you're on an ambulance or something like that, then we have the rule of 2 to 3 inches above the wound. That's where we'll try to put it. However, if we're talking about...
Say why. Say why. So if the wound is here, veins when veins are elastic, or they have an elastic tendency. So if the wound is here and the blood's coming out here, chances are the vein has retracted. So if you go right on the wound or just above the wound, just right above it, the chances of you not stopping the bleed and just not having the blood come out versus stopping bleeding is high. So that's why you go a couple of inches above.
But when we're talking about a traumatic injury, we really don't have time to mess with, okay, well, where has the artery retracted to?
Just go high.
And so what we're gonna do is we just go high.
I stole your thunder, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're fine. So high and tight, okay?
Kind of like the haircut I used to wear, but I don't anymore. High and tight.
So, this tourniquet, I have staged it out for quick one-handed deployment. If I need to put it on myself or put it on someone else. If we're talking about a leg, you may need to...
That still probably work for my leg.
Oh yeah, that still work for your leg. You may need to take the tail off and free it up to get it around the leg. But hypothetical injury here. Okay, it's all right, buddy. You're going to be okay. Use verbal judo. Use verbal judo. Okay, let them know that everything's going to be all right.
This is about to suck.
So we've got first thing we're going to do
Got my armpit hairs.
We're going to cinch down.
I should have trimmed my armpit hairs.
We're going to cinch down the tourniquet as tight as we can get it without turning the windlass. Okay? Now, we're gonna, it's all right, buddy, you're gonna be okay.
And he's looking for about the time that my eyes pop out.
Yep, I'm looking for the tourniquet base.
I don't know why I volunteered for this.
You're the one that said it.
I know it.
All right, so then,
Yep, I'm white.
yep, we got that in the right spot. He wants to hit me now.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll bring this tail through here, put the whole thing, put the windlass into one of the ears, secure the whole thing with this Velcro here. All right, so there we go. Then we're gonna check, make sure that we've got a good occlusion here.
He does, my hand's white.
Yep, looks pretty good. All right.
All right, now generally he would not be the one taking it off, but in the video, because
Yeah.
Tim's with a customer.
Tim's with the customer right now, so we're gonna have to make do. The rule,
You don't take it off yourself, and if you put it on, you don't, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
yep, no, that's absolutely right.
Yep.
Okay, so the rule is, and I know we just talked about doing things the right way all the time, and now we've just done it the wrong way. The rule is, if you put a tourniquet on yourself, you do not take it off yourself. If you put a tourniquet on someone else, you do not take it off someone else. If someone else puts a tourniquet on you, you do not take it off of yourself. The reason why, and I've gotten a lot of pushback from this in medical groups that I've been in. Guys will say, well, you know, how am I supposed to practice? Well, you need to have somebody else there to be involved with it. The reason why is what you will do is you will practice. Maybe you practice putting the tourniquet on correctly.
Sorry, the comments, Jason, yep, I know.
If you ouch.
Oh, man, the YouTube people aren't gonna know what this is, because
Yeah.
they can't see the video, but, or the comments.
So if you practice applying, you're practicing using life-saving medical equipment correctly, okay? If you start taking it off yourself, you're gonna have a real problem in a real world where maybe you've already lost a significant amount of blood before you can get that artery occluded. Okay, because that's what we have to do. Okay, there's my handy dandy artery right here. Okay, we're trying to pinch that thing shut. The only way we can pinch that shut is by compressing it against bones. Okay, and those also run right next to nerve bundles. That's why it hurts and is not comfortable to get a tourniquet put on. But if you're used to practicing by yourself, putting on a tourniquet, getting good occlusion, and then you take it off again, what you're going to do, if you're seriously injured and you're already suffering a altered mental status from blood loss, you're going to put that thing on, it's going to get uncomfortable, just like it was when you were practicing, and what are you going to do next? You're going to take it off. Well, say you have a major bleed and it's already taking you 60 seconds to put your tourniquet on. Okay, you finally get that thing occluded, you get the bleeding stopped. 10 minutes later you say, oh, well, it's not comfortable, it really hurts. Now you go to take it off, and now how much time do you have left before you pass out and then you bleed all of your blood?
Yep.
Instead of what you've just lost so far.
And the only reason that we had Micah take it off this time is because the person we planned on having it taken off, Tim, is helping a customer. So to keep the video from going into,
Yeah, we could go into overtime with the video. Graham would be very uncomfortable by the time we finally get it.
So hopefully this gave you a little bit of information. If you think the tourniquet is tight, it's not tight enough, go a little bit more. And then you notice that Micah, granted, I mean, there was an instant color loss in my arm, so he was able to tell visually, but if you don't want to count on that, because if you're in a bad light or something of that nature, there could be just enough still going through that he needed to check and see, could he feel pulse down here? and he could not. So he knew at that point that it was good. You also want to go back and check it.
Yeah, because the thing with these tourniquets, and I actually saw just today on Facebook, somebody was in a restaurant and one of the guys cut himself badly on a piece of something. I honestly don't think the tourniquet was the correct answer for that particular problem. But what I did see on there was that this well-meaning helper had put this tourniquet on, and of course, no, this is not occluded correctly, guys. I'm just doing this for demonstration. So he had put the tourniquet on and left the tail hanging loose.
Oh man.
So even if that was working, leaving the tail hanging loose is just asking for somebody or something to come by and snag it. And now all your hard work to stop that bleeding is for nothing, because you've got to secure that strap to make sure it stays down. Yeah. So tourniquets are no joke. If you haven't had practice with the tourniquet in the last month, you need to, if you don't have practice medical equipment, you should invest a few bucks and go ahead and get a set just for practice. We have dedicated tourniquets here for our medical classes. I have another tourniquet that I keep at the house, wrapped with blue tape, kind of like the legs on this Cat 7. That is just for practice. You got to stay current on these skills, otherwise they will diminish, and you don't want to be, the last thing you want to do is show up with a traumatic injury. You're the only person that's got the gear and the training that you need, and you fumble through the steps in your mind because you haven't stayed current with it.
Yep. These are perishable skills. It's not, if you're not going through it all the time, you're gonna lose and forget things. Same reason why we tell you that you carry a gun, you should go and get training. Just because you've had training one time doesn't mean that it's going to be ongoing. This is why professionals have what's called CE, continuing education, so that they're constantly going through and relearning and finding out what has changed. Think of CPR. If you've ever had CPR class, if you've taken it for years, you know that CPR every few years changes from the way they teach it. And there's new things, new procedures. Defibrillators changed everything. But the information changes, our understanding changes, and you need to stay on top of it, stay relevant, and stay proficient in it. So like applying the tourniquet, remembering what it feels like, putting it on, knowing what it's like, what you're checking and how you're checking it, because in that stressful situation, you're not going to completely remember everything that you did or didn't do. That's why you need to go back through and check them again. So once you've established, okay, this is taken care of, now you're going to go on and you're going to check for breathing, you're going to check, for any other blood, any other things that are happening all around them, check their brain, check their eyes dilation, all this kind of stuff. You go back through and do it again and again and again until help arrives.
Right. And this is literally in just the tip of the iceberg regarding traumatic medical. There's a whole lot more to it. If you can only take one day to get some training on how to deal with trauma, I strongly suggest that you come by and sign up for our quick reaction medical class. It's one day that can save somebody's life or your own life potentially. If you want a lot more practice and in-depth scenario-based training, go to tactical response and take immediate action medical. Okay, I've taken that course twice. Now they have an advanced immediate action medical, which I have every intention of going on down there and taking.
Yeah.
Though that is an excellent course with a whole lot of hands-on training.
Obviously, there's a prerequisite. You can't just go take the advanced one.
No, you have to take immediate action medical before you can take advanced immediate action medical.
So to sum it up, have a plan, be prepared, have training. In tourniquet application, or when you're coming upon a situation where you are now the first responder, remember, bad guy, you're checking for the 5 Bs. James taught this in immediate action medical. 5 Bs, bad guys, blood, breathing, brain, body, and then you repeat. And you're gonna go through that over and over and over. First, if there's bad guys, you gotta get the bad guys down before you can help anybody. You're gonna check for, and this is not necessarily in this particular order, but you're gonna check for blood on the person that you're looking for. You're gonna check for breathing. Are they breathing? Their brain, are they talking? Are they conscious? And their body, because they may not know that they have something going on. Remember, there is more than one side to the body, so you need to check everything. This is where having a blue or a different color than black, I guess is the best way that I'll put it, a different color other than black glove there, because you won't be able to see if it's blood. It may also be dark, which means you may need to smell. If it's blood, it's going to have a smell that you can pick up on versus some other bodily fluid.
Yeah, it's better to say, hey, that smells like copper, than hey, that tastes like pennies.
Yeah.
That's not good.
So bad guys, blood, breathing, brain, body. Remember those 5 Bs. Doesn't necessarily have to be in that order, except the bad guys needs to be number 1. You got to take that out first. Assess the scene first, because you can't help anybody if there's still somebody causing trouble. So Jason, after you take those classes, take the fight and you'll get to meet me. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
I had a good time role-playing the fight with Jason.
So Downtown Tactical, we're a local gear, equipment, firearm retailer and training school that is not located downtown, but we have the gear and equipment and training to make it safe for you to go downtown or anywhere in town. Find us on East Battlefield Road in Springfield, Missouri, or you can find us online at downtowntactical.com for show topics, tips, feedback, training, questions, things you want to hear about, questions about what we've talked about today. You can email us at radio, R-A-D-I-O, at downtowntactical.com. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. We hope to hear from you and see you live right here next week. Thank you. That was a good show, man.
It was a good show.
It was a good show. We're still live.
I know.
But it was a good show. I really like that we have these guys that just come on every single week.
Yeah,
Our
it's fun.
Our fellow alum.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, guys.